Sunday marks 5 years since the murder of George Floyd at the hands of police officers in Minneapolis. His death sparked a wave of protests across the US that saw millions of people demand racial justice and police accountability. Pledges were made to address bias and discrimination. Now the movement for racial justice is at a crossroads. A warning to viewers, the next report contains distressing images.
Jesus, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Thank you. I can't breathe. Stop moving. Mama. Mama.
The moment an arrest turned into murder. Bystanders begged with police as Officer Derek Chauvin kneeled on George Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes. He died handcuffed, face down on the ground. Witness video shared online ignited protests in Minneapolis.
It was a level of rage and energy I've never experienced in my life and probably never will experience again. I watched it go from 200 to 500 to by the time we got to 3rd Precinct, it was over 1,000 people. And by the time that night was over, it was over 10,000 people.
The outrage exploded through a nation locked down by the COVID-19 pandemic.
It wasn't that George Floyd was the first, black person to be killed at the hands of police officers. But rather, it had everyone's attention, right? It was because of the particular moment where we were living that people had no choice but to pay attention.
This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
Demonstrations spread across the world. Police officer Derek Chauvin was sentenced to more than 22 years in prison for the murder of George Floyd in 2021. 2 other officers were sentenced to prison for depriving Floyd of his constitutional rights. 5 years on, some of the legacy of the movement, like Black Lives Matter Plaza near the White House in Washington, are being demolished. But at the site of George Floyd's murder, his legacy is very much alive.
We're going to continue on in our movements and in our actions. We're not going to be deterred. We're not going to be afraid. We're going to continue what we have been called to do.
Well, let's bring in Black queer storyteller and transgender activist Ianne Stewart, who joins us from New York. Thanks for your time. How much momentum would you say the Black Lives Matter movement still has?
Well, I think firstly, it's important to make a distinction between the Black Lives Matter movement, which is a decentralized political and social group founded by Patricia Cullors and Alicia Garza and Tome Ayoto in 2013, and the larger movement for Black Lives and Liberation, which includes the Black Panther Party, the Civil Rights Movement, the Combahee River Collective, and so many more. And so 12 years after the founding of the original hashtag of Black Lives Matter, I think that we absolutely are seeing the momentum of that movement continue on. That's why in 2020 things went the way that they went, because there was already so much to build on. And so it's my hope that 5 years later from 2020, when this movement became so widespread, we will hopefully continue to see movements and organizations and collectives and people commit themselves to the struggle for Black liberation, Black lives, and our safety and our mental well-being.
And these are movements that have popped up elsewhere in the world, also here in Germany. But tell me, how much do Black lives and Black trans lives matter under the Trump administration?
Well, the inherent value of Black trans lives is not determined by who's in office. No one, especially Trump, can tell me or anyone I love that their life is not valuable. But all that Trump can really do in this administration is what anybody can do, which is show how small their character is and how far they will go to pull other people down in order to make themselves taller.
What sort of racial injustice still exists in the US today?
We are still seeing white male voices privileged over all others. We still are experiencing housing crises, being pushed out of our neighborhoods, being pushed out of jobs. Black trans people especially are facing huge levels of violence against us, both physical, mental, emotional. The struggles that we talked about in 2020 are still present today. The enemy has not changed too much. Our collective power as a people is the thing that can change. And our collective desire to push back against those systems is what can change.
So young black kids are still going to grow up differently to young white kids?
I think so, yeah. I think that, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with there being a difference in how people grow up. I think that what the problem is that white kids are growing up with the opportunity to get jobs, to go to school, to achieve in life without the same kind of impediments that are placed in front of young black kids. Young black kids have to face not only just the experience of growing up and how stressful that is for anyone who is growing up, but also have to face dealing with adults who wish to eradicate them, hurt them, harm them, especially for Black trans kids. Black trans kids, Black and trans kids in general right now are watching adults play out on the larger political field their lives and how their autonomy. All of our ability to say who we are and who we want to be is called into question by these people who continue to fight about our lives as if we are a political movement rather than understanding that we are living people. And you, no more than me, gets to say who is important.
Can you tell me personally what's changed in your mind to make you speak up on topics like this?
I think that what has changed is the people. I think that there is more awareness now. I think that conversations that used to happen in either smaller spaces or community spaces, I think in 2020, some of those ideas were then amplified. Those large ideas around organizing and social movement were amplified so that it became part of a larger public discourse. And whenever something gets extended and blown up that way to where everyone is talking about it, each person gets to we suddenly have to deal with everyone's different definition. And so I think that's where we're at right now, is that 5 years later, we are trying to figure out the definitions. We're trying to figure out how to do the simple things that actually make huge impacts. Part of community organizing is getting to know your neighbor. Part of community organizing is caring for your elders and your young people and the people in the middle as well. Part of community organizing is how we live our lives. It's not just what we say we believe in, it's how we actually embody those beliefs. And so my belief is never in necessarily the system to change, but I am always encouraged and passionate about the people. I'm passionate about what we are able to do as individuals if we choose to say, I'm actually not insignificant. I am valuable. I am important. And I believe that I deserve to have the same shot in life as everyone else.
That's what it's all about. Ianne Stewart, thank you very much for being on the show today. Great talking to you.
Thank you so much.